guys, we're ready to continue our study in the book of John. Today we're going to finish chapter 18. On Monday, we saw Jesus go to the garden with the 11, and we saw Judas come with hundreds and hundreds of Roman soldiers along with the Pharisees from the Jewish leadership. And they arrest Jesus, and they have taken him. And also, we see that Peter has already denied the Lord one time. And so we're going to pick up in verse 19. And this is what it says. The high priest then questioned Jesus about his disciples and about his teaching. Jesus answered them, I have spoken openly to the world. I always taught in the synagogues and in the temple where all the Jews come together, and I spoke nothing in secret. Why do you question me? Question those who have heard what I spoke to them. They know what I said. And when he had said this, one of the officers standing nearby, struck Jesus, saying, Is that the way you answer the high priest? Jesus answered him, If I have spoken wrongly, testify of that wrong. But if rightly, why do you strike me? And so this is kind of like an informal questioning, because we know that Annas is the former high priest. Caiaphas is the current high priest. And so they've brought him to Annas first. And Annas says, What have you been teaching? Not what miracles have you performed, not what what you've taught your disciples, not anything about, the way you've lived, anything like that. What have you been teaching? See, they're offended by the truth. The world's systems will always be against the truth, and Jesus himself is truth. So they say, what have you been teaching? And we know that he had been teaching he's Messiah. And so this is why he's arrested. This is the whole point. And because Jesus answered the high priest and said, why don't you ask the people I taught instead of questioning me? Then one of the soldiers strikes him, and this is the beginning of the beatings that Jesus would have to endure. And so then they take him to the current high priest, which is Caiaphas. And in verse 24 it says this, So Annas sent him bound to Caiaphas the high priest. And now we're going to pick up with Peter. Peter. That's how Miss Lynn said it. It's so true. Now Simon Peter was standing and warming himself. And so they said to him, You are not also one of his disciples, are you? He denied it, and he said, I am not. So that's his second denial. Then it says, one of the slaves of the high priest, being a relative, listen to this, of the one who Peter cut off his ear, said, Did I not see you in the garden with him? So now Peter is standing warming around the fire. A slave girl asked him a question, and just so happens Malchus, the guy he cut the ear off of, his cousin, is standing around the fire. Here you go, Peter. Here it goes. And then look what Peter does. Peter then denied again, and immediately a rooster crowed. You see that Jesus' prophecies will always come true, and it did here that he knew that Peter would deny him 3 times, and this rooster on command crows because Jesus is over his creation. Now the civil trial begins in verse 28. Then they led Jesus from Caiaphas into the praetorium. And the praetorium is like where the Roman, soldiers and leaders would gather. And so this was a Gentile place. This was where the Gentiles would be. And so look at the hypocrisy of the Jewish leadership. And it was early, and they themselves did not enter into the praetorium, so that they might not be defiled, but might eat the Passover. They're such hypocrites. They thought going in that room where Gentiles had been was hypocrisy, but they're wanting to kill Jesus is not. They want to murder, but they don't want to be unclean because they're such hypocrites, and they want to be part of the Passover feast. You just can't believe it. But all this is God's purpose and God's plan. Then in 29 it says, Therefore Pilate had to go out to them. And he said, What accusations do you bring against this man? And they answered and said to him, If this man were not an evildoer, we would not have delivered him to you. They're just saying, hey, take our word for it. We need to kill this guy. Then in 31 it says, So Pilate said to them, Take him yourselves and judge him according to your law. The Jews said to him, We are not permitted to put anyone to death. Do you see? They can't take him into their courts. They want the Romans to take care of it because the Romans can crucify. The Jews can't crucify, the Romans can. And then it says to fulfill the word of Jesus which he spoke, signifying by what kind of death he was about to die. Once again, they think they're going to kill Jesus. Jesus is going to lay down his life. This is all part of God's plan. Then it says, therefore Pilate entered into the praetorium and summoned Jesus to him and said, are you the king of the Jews? And Jesus answered, are you saying this on your own initiative, or did others tell you about me? Once again, Pilate really has no clue what's going on. He's just listening to what the Jews are telling him. And now he said, are you the king of the Jews? And Pilate answered, I am not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and chief priests delivered you to me. What have you done? And we know nothing. He's done nothing. And then listen to verse 36. This I love. This is the mic drop for me, for Jesus, in this section of Scripture. Jesus answered, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then my servants would be fighting so that I would not be handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not of this realm. I'm sorry, I just love that. I love that. You know, everything we face right now, that is in no comparison into what Jesus faced. But we know this. This is not his kingdom. This is not his kingdom. And if it were, legions of angels would have been sent. But see, Jesus had to fulfill his purpose. Then it says in 37, therefore Pilate said to him, so you are a king? And Jesus answered, you say correctly that I am a king. For this I have been born, and for this I have come into the world. Listen to this, to testify to the truth. The truth. And it says, everyone who is of the truth hears my voice. That's the privilege we get, that when we know him, we can hear his voice in his truth. He spoke truth to us. This is why he's on trial, because of truth. Because of truth. And then it says, and when he had said this, he went out again to the Jews and said to them, see, Pilate wants to get out of this. He said, this guy hadn't done anything to me. He said, I find no guilt in him. But you have a custom that I release someone for your Passover. Do you wish then I release for you the king of the Jews? And listen what they cried. So they cried out again, not this man, but Barabbas. And Barabbas was a robber. And so you see this parallel things happening, that the Jews and the Jewish religious leadership want Jesus dead because he claims to be Messiah. He is Messiah. He teaches truth, and that comes against them because they're not believers. They rejected him as Messiah, so they want him dead. But then all the while, you see God's plans and purposes fulfill themselves with Peter, with the rooster's crow. And then you see it ultimately with Pilate wanting to wash his hands of it. But Jesus knowing that this is what he's come to do. And why? Why did he do it? And then you remember, it's for us. It's for us. He came because he wanted to die and take away our sin because he loves us. So let's remember as we march into chapter 19, and we're going to see what Jesus went through to bring us our salvation. Don't give up yet. Stay in the story and keep reading along with me as we're going to finish chapter 19. We finished chapter 18 today. We're going to start chapter 19 on Monday. And I have to say, the winner of the journaling Psalter is Candy Jones. So Candy, I'm going to send you a message and I'm going to get this book to you. So I hope you'll join me on Monday as we dive into chapter 19.